And boom, we are live. What's up, everybody? It is GMrReads welcoming you to another episode of the Andrew Gorshevsky Experience. This is going to be episode 570, Windows, Part 3. Let's just pick up where we left off. Man, this monster. And spoiler alert to a... How long ago was the 80s? Oh yeah, I was born in the 80s, so we're talking like 30 plus years ago. You know, 35-year-old spoiler alert coming in. I think this little fact alone should like pique anyone's interest who's remotely into anything that like I talk about here. I love me some Akira. It was like one of the first manga movies I ever saw. In recent years, I went and bought all the books for them, and you know, I thought it was just gonna give me something cool like the movie, and then I learned the whole history behind the movie and the books, and I kind of talked about them in previous streams, not like this. And I'm not going to talk about it too much because I'm just going to like stick to like buildings, like what I was just working on and the whole point of what I was talking about. But you know, just a brief history between the movie production and the manga production. This is a 6-book series, and you can see it's a thick book. And this is the third one out of the series of 6, and this is actually one of the thinner books compared, you know, to some, you know, a few of the other ones. Like the other ones are actually thicker than this one. So, but yeah, this is about the halfway point of the story, and you may be thinking to yourself like, who, you know, if you only ever seen the anime or the movie, you might be thinking to yourself, well, who cares? It's just like halfway through the movie, right? And it's like, no. Like, so they started the manga, book 1, you know what I mean? Drawing it, putting it out, drawing it, putting it out, drawing it, putting it out. It was such a hit that they were like, yo, we're making these animations, but we're gonna make an animation of your book. And he was probably something like, yo, I'm nowhere near done. I'm nowhere near done, son. And they were like, we don't care. We're gonna make a movie, so let's make a movie. So he had his original script that he wanted to work off of and make, and he probably had like the short version of the script where it's like just like these are the events that take place from beginning to end. And then he probably had like one that had like a little bit more notes and details to it. And then he actually probably had like a final script as far as his manga goes, what they wanted to make a movie or anime adaptation of. And he was only 1 book in out of 6. So him being the creator was like, oh, like how are we supposed to get from point A to point B? And I'm only like at the starting point of point A with this big old first book. You know what I'm saying? And so while he was probably just like working on the 2nd book out of 6, they were probably already like kicking into gear of production of the anime. So what they had to do with the anime, as good as it is and as classic as it is, as legendary as it is, as awesome as it is, as much as we all love it, and it is all that, it is nothing as far as like story, scope, characters. It's nothing compared to this. It's wild. And you know, the Akira anime is like, it's legendary, but it was like riddled with like production issues, and one of the issues being that they truncated the story and they over animated a whole lot. Well, they properly animated it, but proper animation is over animation at a certain standard. So yeah, so here, incoming spoiler, the spoiler I was talking about. So they truncated it a lot. And there's a whole bunch of story and characters and events that happen that didn't happen at all in the anime. Even the cover alone, you can look at it, you're like, oh yeah, there's Kaneda, there's Kaide, I think her name was Kaide, something like that. And then you're like, but who's this person? She was probably like in the background in the anime at some point. You know what I mean? Plays a big role in the manga. And there's all this beautiful manga art, storytelling. It's great. I love it. This is all insane, right? So they get to, and remember, this is halfway through the story. They get to a point where, oh yeah, spoiler alert, Akira, the whole character that this whole book is titled after, the titular character, is alive. He's not dead. He's not like a set of organs and flasks, anything like that. He's actually alive. And at some point they get him. You can see like there's the floating blue boy. Here's the other blue boy, you know, the experimented on kids that were all blue skin, white hair, you know, and then we have Akira. And you're like, an event happens, and super spoilers. So like turn away, turn the video off. Stop watching. Keep watching. Where, and these kids were experimented on with Akira. They underwent the same stuff, same like science experiment procedures and whatnot. And Akira's essentially like he's like the Michael Jackson of all these experimented on kids. That's why all the other ones ended up blue with white hair. But you can see he still just looks like a regular kid, even though he's probably 50 years old at this point, like or however old he is, you know. But he still just looks like the same kid that he was then. He's just special. An event happens. One of his friends gets killed. It's the I think it's like the ratty corporate guy who ends up shooting. Dang, what's his name? Well, it's the kid that Tetsuo crashes into, you know, shoots him right in front of Akira. And Akira's like, just saw his friend get gone. And then what follows is one of the craziest things. One of the craziest sequences of just illustration that I can't believe. So you can see one kid is going, this is kind of graphic, isn't it? So let me cover it up. But you can see they're all like tripping. And then because they're all like psionic, whatever, they're all like kind of mentally connected to one another and things like that. So one of them gets hurt, they can kind of all feel it. One of them gets hurt, big hurt, they could all big feel it. And even just these environments, just drawing something like this, I'd be like, I mean, I guess maybe today I could just like have fun and use my imagination, but still, like this environment, it's craziness. But it's nothing compared to what happens with Akira. And this is the whole reason why Akira is Akira. They get all these reactions from all these characters because, like I said, there's so much more to the story. And the kid just lets loose, right? Akira. All this emotional whatever from his friend. Look at that. How good is that? How crazy is that? It's almost like nothing, but it's like super something. Sorry. Like all this is crazy. These little buildings, and you can see that's all Akira. That's why he's deserving of the title. But yeah, all sorts of nuttiness. All the characters are beginning to like immediately react. To this. And it's even like, as an illustrator, personally, I'd be like, go home. Go home. Right? I mean, forget about the visual of what you're looking at here. Like this is a forest. Look at the trees. Like, they're not trees, they're buildings. But you see what I'm saying? Like, separate the forest from the trees and separate the trees from the forest, and like all this detail, all this line work. When I was saying like there's artists that there's techniques now that artists like implement to try to like circumvent production time, necessarily, of course. I don't know how much of it like comes close to the outcome of something like this. You know what I mean? Oh, that's some graphic stuff. We start seeing, yeah, that character, those characters. Ooh, bad words. Big words. Don't worry, I'm pretty sure pretty soon there's not going to be like any dialogue on the scene. But you see like every character's reaction to what's happening. And then this happens. Like, that's an illustration, man. That's a drawing. That's the stuff that I always say, like, I don't, when I like, I focus on characters, character design, all that other stuff, monsters, you know, whatever, anatomy, all that stuff. That's why I say stuff like Transformers is like, you know what I mean? When I look at them and look at the work that illustrators put in to making them happen. That's why I really appreciated ever finding Jay Lee's work on Transformers, because it was like, oh, thank God. Not that it's like lesser than, but it's just an interpretation of a pretty well-known style as far as Transformers. I'm pretty sure most people think of the same things. Well, actually, I don't even know, man. I guess Transformers has had so much in recent years as far as like cartoons and everything that you see on Netflix and stuff. A lot of people probably think of those like 3D models, but even then, looking at the 3D models, looking at the comic books, looking at like the classic cartoons, like they're all geometric shapes, you know. There's some sort of special beauty to having like, to draw this. Like, I'm not even gonna count how many there is here. You know what I'm saying? How many windows and balconies and doors and frames and then construction panels, and then even just like breaking up. Even this is the same building, but there's like a roof patio. Doors and windows to the roof patio, a separate set of windows on the same building. That's just like, you know what I mean? Like this is a hotel suite or something, while these are all just like the regular rooms. Maybe it's an office, who knows. All these windows, I'm not gonna count. I'm not gonna count. All these windows, like drawing all that. I would hope that you just drew one of them and then just like multiplied it, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. But I'm pretty sure we all know that's not what happened. Lighting, even having to capture a little bit of the lighting. Every window just has a slightly thicker line. Well, you can barely see it from like what I'm giving you here, but you know what I'm saying. You can kind of see it. And then even lighting here, midtones and all that stuff. But then on top of that, the actual illustration, how unconstructive, I don't want to say destructive, but unconstructive the damage is, you know what I mean? And depicting that and the differences from the techniques used here as opposed to the technique used here, you know, all in one glorious shot. And then you see a picture in the background even with like clouds and, you know, actual like life, where you know, I tend to think of these things as lifeless, like buildings and architecture and things like that. Not to be, it sounds disrespectful when I say it like that, but you know what I mean, like inanimate, I guess might be the word. But then you have like a little peek into what's actually happening in life out here naturally. You got like some typhoons, whirlwinds, whatever these things are called, water spouts, tornadoes, hurricanes developing. You know, buildings off in the distance. Even this, like the perspective to maintain all of that consistently. See why I'd be like, go home. Go home. Like I said, the dialogue stops. Like I like to talk about how it's like, I don't like to use a ruler when I draw. But this here is like, it's worth drawing with a ruler. For sure. There's like one non-straight line, and it's this one right here. Everything else is a straight line. It's craziness. Same thing. Even the different types of the way that these buildings are being like destroyed or whatever. Having to draw this, like I would love to see a time-lapse art video of someone just drawing this and like, where'd they start, where'd they stop when it came to using a ruler to get all these, and the perspective where like these windows are a little bit more visible than these windows. They're just slightly bigger, you know? And then throw in the debris, you know, the collisions and the debris that's happening. Like, where do they start? Where do they stop? See, like, I see this and I'm like, okay, I may not be creative enough to like kind of really understand what something like destruction on this level would kind of look like visually. I don't know, probably definitely have to pull up references, but there's a lot of unconstruction here where like the environment was devastated enough where there's not that many straight lines. You got some in the bricks, a little bit in the background here, like some on the shutters and whatnot. This is a little bit more, I guess, a little less tame. You know what I'm saying? As far as like line use and all that other stuff goes, like all these like natural lines, you can just kind of like draw anything. You know what I mean? Doesn't require a ruler per se. But then you still got the vehicles that they're constructed, they're constructions, they're built, they're man-made. And like the looks of these vehicles and the looks of these buildings compared to like the natural look of this destroyed like little piece of landscape here. Anytime I think about buildings, drawing buildings, and you know, since I'm like into comics and stuff, and so much of it takes place in like, you know, downtown areas, big cities, you know, big heroes in the big cities. I mean, there are no words. Like, how much was just hand drawn, and then how much was just, you know, when did using the ruler stop, and then just like, okay, I don't know. And all these buildings are different. They're all different, you know. Even what I'm working on right now, I'm looking to try to make the look right as far as like what my aim is and what I'm doing. But like, let's say there's 50 buildings in here. They're 50 different looking buildings. They have different rooftops. The roofs all look different. They got different windows. Different just, I don't even know. I don't even have the vernacular for it. But yeah, these are the things that I think about when I'm like thinking about buildings. I think about this artist. I imagine he might have had a team, like he would draw something and then he would lay it out, and then he would have like someone else kind of come in and work behind him and do some stuff. So I'm not saying like one guy did all this. Maybe he did, maybe I don't know. From my understanding, like the manga artists, they have like, you know, the people that work under them that kind of do all the touch-ups and everything like that after them. So there's probably like some of that, like that is what's going on in these pictures here also. It's not just the work of one person, but it's kind of the work of one person. But like how the building's intact up here and then not intact down here. And it's just like, I have a hard time just like when I try to draw buildings, it's hard to work from reference because a reference may not necessarily give you the angle that you want to draw from. So you can't just work directly from reference, you could just kind of use it loosely. I have a hard time just coming up with like the shapes of buildings, but even more so the windows. How to put one building next to another building and make them look like they belong in the same city street, in the same block, in the same intersection, while making different style windows, balconies, layers. Like this building has like a little kind of, I don't even know what you call this, you know, this little thing where like, you know, it's not necessarily a patio. This is kind of more like a patio up here, but you know what I'm saying, a little walkabout, a little ledge, but like a pathway ledge, a path ledge. Like I said, I don't even have words, yo. I don't even have the words. But like all the line work right here, all working in perspective, you know, where there's like no detail, and then you begin to start to see a little bit of detail, and then you're down here where you can almost kind of make out like the windows and all that other stuff. How do you keep count of that? How do you keep count of that? You know what I mean? How do you not make a mistake? Like counting these things. See, like the part, what I like is like the deconstructing part, where, you know, you just break up the line, you throw a little bit of, you know, devastation here. Oh, there's a crack in the build. Like, that's easy. But man, like all this, and then again with the more just natural, ethereal explosion, smoke, plumes of smoke. Even the momentum of the blast and of the wave, you know what I mean? It's like you can see the layers of what's happening, where this building's hasn't been touched yet, you know? And this building's starting to get it. But then over here, it's like, okay, it's starting to get knocked over. And then over here, it just becomes a jambalaya. You know what I'm saying? I could draw jambalaya all day. I could just, oh yeah, a little bit of this here. You know, I could draw geometric shapes to a certain point. You know what I mean? Like okay, here's a piece of a roof. Here's a piece of a wall. You know, here's a bit of a cube to kind of represent a building, and it'll draw an antenna coming out. But to draw another 50 buildings, all in perspective, all in different increments, devastation. I mean, this panel alone is essentially a gradient. It's essentially a gradient from nothing to a little bit to like some of these, and then it's like to just static. I don't even know. From non-destructed to destructed. It's like a gradient. You can see this stuff, this wave. I'm sure surfers that'll look at that and be like, "Ooh, I'd like to surf that. I'd like to ride that wave." But even here, to like draw buildings like this, where you're kind of giving it the close-up, and then drawing the buildings like this, where now it's a massive group shot. Probably need to drink more water. A massive group shot of buildings just upon this wave of energy. This is the stuff I think about when I'm like, I gotta draw buildings. I gotta draw a city. You know? Pretty sure this is a poster. If it's not, it should be. You got to put this poster up next to the Michael Jordan with like the 10 rings, or however many rings Michael Jordan got in the NBA, all those championship rings he got, that poster where he got like 2 rings on each finger, and he's just looking at you like you need to have that poster up on your wall, and then you need to put this poster right next to it. And it's like, see, like this is just kind of cool to me, like science fiction cool, you know, like a long time ago on a past stream, what was I working on? It might have been before I started the fish guide, so we're talking maybe somewhere around 18 months ago, because I started the fish guide maybe in like December or January of 2022, like December 2022, maybe January 2023. And I think it was before I started working on that fish guide that I kind of broke out the metal plates, the metal engravings of Gustave Doré, and his metal plate etchings. Like, this is reminiscent of that, you know what I mean? That guy did those in the late 1800s, like let's say the 1880s. And then here we got Katsuhiro Otomo, that's his name? Yeah, this guy. You know, 100 years later, doing this. Man, who's gonna be the artist in like 2088? Who's gonna be like doing the next thing? But man, see, like this is cool for me. This, I'm like, okay, I could draw this. Not to minimize the effort here, and not to just boast to myself, but like, it's all just shapes. They're shapes of life. You know what I mean? There's you know, the whirlwind happening here, the clouds. There's no particular shape to them. I don't have to make sure that this cloud is the same exact cloud as that one, and this looks exactly like that. You know, none of the buildings are as defined here. They're all just general, you know, rectangles, you know, with a streak of shadow and a burst of energy, wind and dust and debris just blowing through them. There's no ruler being used here for the most part. Like, maybe to draw the layout, to draw the outline, you know what I mean? They probably used a ruler then, but then as soon as they had that, like, this is just pure fun at this point. At this point, pure fun. You have a light source, which is this energy blast. So you have the shadow behind all of it, streaks of shadow popping just because it's an extreme light that's hitting it. So you have your shades that you can just shade all these shapes with. You have all these buildings. Maybe they used a ruler, maybe they didn't, I don't know. It doesn't look like they did, and I don't blame them. Because at this point, this blast, this devastation is impacting these buildings to a point where none of them are probably going to be like you know, perfectly symmetrical anymore. This is just an awesome picture. It's looking at this stuff that's like, I would love to be able to put the artistic energy. Why can't I hear this video right now? Why is my TV like silent? I'm watching some. Hold on, man. Can I leave this here? No? Is it gonna, what happens if I put this here? Is it gonna weigh it down enough? Yes. Let's just look at that for a while. I guess that video just doesn't have any audio. Huh. That's weird. Okay. Yeah, I'm like, why is it so quiet in here? I'm just talking about pictures, yo. Just talking about the masterworks. But yeah, like something like this, like the energy that goes into this, it's a lot. A lot of work and effort goes into being able to draw something like this. But this is more like okay, I like this. As far as like being an artist, having a blank page in front of me and having to redraw it or something like it, it's like okay, this is cool. I like the fact that I don't have to use a ruler and I have a pretty good light source, and then I could draw all sorts of cool stuff like swirls and clouds and tornadoes and energy blasts and dust debris and streaks of shadow. Like, alright, I got this. You know what I mean? A semblance of what once was a city, but like looking at this effort, it's still a lot of effort, a lot of, you know, a lot went into it. But then going back to the page before it, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. How? How they do that? go to the page before where we were. This building don't look like that building. This rooftop don't look like that rooftop. This water tower doesn't look like that water tower. And there's 50 more water towers. These windows don't look like that window. Yet they all still look like they belong together. You know what I mean? You got these horizontal windows here, but then you got another vertical set of windows here, but somehow I could still see that the people that are working inside these buildings are all the same size, more or less, because these buildings and their windows, even though they're different, they just communicate that. That's the part that when I be like, I don't want to draw no buildings. I don't want to, like, I still got a lot to do. I could draw this, you know what I mean? A little bit of a rooftop, a little bit of some buildings, and, you know, a whole lot of whatever, like explosion. Like, okay, that's more my style. I could just make some stuff up, make up some shapes, you know what I mean? Make it look pretty. Anybody realize that there's no more sound effects, there's no more no more speech bubbles, there's no more anything going on? It's just pure illustration in this manga at this point after what happened. You know, sorry for spoiling you if you didn't hear that, but maybe it's enough for you to go and pick up these books and read them for yourself, because it is a journey. It is a journey, and it's equally as beautiful of the anime, if not more, just because of the fact that there's so much more story to it. You know what I mean? The animated movie probably picked up from the first book and the last book and kind of left out most of the 4 books worth in between, worth of story, characters, and this world. And there's, like I said, I mean, the biggest difference is Akira's alive. He's not like how he is in the anime. So yeah. See, like, this is a cool panel for me right here. A little bit of lightning there, no shape, no rhyme or reason to it. Just draw some lightning, some explosion, some energy, make it look cool. You know what I mean? Give it some effect. And then just like minimal amount of effort. on the buildings. Just like, all right, we're gonna throw the buildings in the corner. You know what I mean? We're not gonna use too many of them. Half of them are gonna be getting blowed up anyways. Like, all right, like I could draw that. You know what I mean? The light of it is gonna create an atmosphere where it's like you don't even have to draw in all the windows. Okay, cool. And whatever windows you are drawing in, don't worry about making them look pretty picture perfect, because they're all slightly getting hit by this, impacted by this energy wave. I mean, just making this is dystopian science fiction at its best. It's the greatest, one of the greatest for a reason. You know what I mean? Dang. You know, don't forget to draw the light poles. I mean, look at that. Even the differences of like what you're looking at here as far as like the waves of dust and debris and how they're being depicted with just solid white, you know what I mean, with a little bit of like energy blast. I mean, even these little lines right here, you could think about things of like Cyclops using a Cyclops beam, or Magneto using some magnetism energy, and you can see like those little energy waves coming off from them using like powers and stuff. You know what I mean? It often gets depicted like this. You know, it often gets depicted like that. You could almost throw a character like right here floating in the middle with their arms out and be like, oh yeah, that's the Phoenix. You know what I mean? From the Phoenix Saga and all this other stuff. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like the energy here that's being depicted in these panels, and then you could look at this panel, and then you look at the energy there, and it's like, man, just like, what's even going on here anymore? What's even going on here anymore? It looks like Niagara Falls, but it's not. What's even going on anymore? Like, you know? And now you get to see the buildings post Akira. Don't forget to draw the light pole. You know, the little power pole, the intersection light. You know what I mean? You're drawing all these buildings, drawing all the waterfall, whatever, sewage, oof, clouds with rays of light peeking through, and you got all this. But yeah, don't forget the street lights and all those details. Man, they were just drawing these pictures or these buildings intact just a few pages ago. I mean, look at all these buildings. Even here, like, even this is dope to me. Like, I love the balance in this panel as far as like just drawing off the cuff and then drawing with structure in mind. Like all these buildings that are intact, maybe intact, like I don't even know. But even that, like making sure that they're still like how I was saying with this picture, the buildings, you know, weren't being drawn with like a ruler or with a straight edge or anything like that. Like, you know what I mean? It's more or less just like, hey, we can do all this by hand. The energy blast, the shading, you know, the fact that we're so zoomed away from it, we don't need to pick up any sort of details, you know. Where I'm gonna say there were no straight edges used in this picture, in this one, that's equally as pulled back. Maybe a little bit more, who knows. There is a straight edge being used. And there is still some semblance of the fact that these buildings didn't like fall over from the blast. Like they're like still intact, and the perspective still all has to be there. All the straight edges have to be right. You can't have like wonky lines, and you can't just like hand loose draw these things. Like even at this scale, like these things were used with this, you know what I mean, with construction in mind. And then you have you balance it out with the clouds, and you have all this detail, and it's a little darker or whatever. Like you know, you could see like it's just darker, and then on all these light portions, you know, all these light portions that are just line work, making pretty clouds. And then yeah, like I said, going back to the buildings, and then getting back to the story, getting back to the people, getting back to their reactions, how they were reacting when it went down, and Akira was like, Akira snapped, and then everyone's reaction took like a few pages of everyone just scrambling, being like, oh no. And then a few pages, even more so. Look at me spitting on my book. A few pages of just no words. Just draw these buildings, draw these clouds. This is halfway through the story, by the way. There's still 3 more books after all this happens. And this was just like 10 pages out of this book. So hopefully I didn't spoil too much for y'all. But like now that we're getting back into like the story, you start getting the sound effects. And then you start getting the word bubbles back. Start getting back to the characters. Them coming out. See, there go that lady that's on the cover, where I'm like, who that? She's cool. Like she's crazy, this character. And then we start getting back to these buildings. Like, yeah, this is all post destruction, devastation, whatever. And you know, it's still going on. Like, you still see all the energy from the wave, and all the dust that's still just billowing and pillowing and all that other stuff. But then you got to get back to the straight edge, get back to the ruler, drawing these lines, making sure all this is equal size and everything like that. And then the fun part, where you get to just draw the effects of all the you know, the debris and wood and splinters and rebar and whatever, you know. You know what I mean? Like, you draw this building one day, or you start your morning off, you clock into work, you go in, you start drawing, you draw this building, and by the end of the day you're drawing this building, and it's just like, I haven't gotten there yet. I'm not there. You know what I mean? Just this panel alone and drawing these buildings, like, I could look at it and see the visual value of everything that's happening here. I actually kind of appreciate the fact that, you know, there's all these vertical lines, and then there's just like the impression of windows here, or blown out windows. You know what I mean? So that way not every 100 windows is drawn in, but there's enough of information there to say, like, you know, we got some lines, they may or may not be windows, and then you just kind of draw like a little heavier line or a double line there, and then you throw a little bit of consistency in there, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, you got the effect of windows. But even that, just drawing that building alone would be trouble. And then it's like, oh yeah, you got to draw another one, and this one fell over, and you're drawing it on a Dutch angle because this guy's walking on the side of a building that's not even the street floor anymore. You know what I mean? And then you still got to draw this picture. You know what I mean? At the end of the day. Stuff like this. It's stuff like drawing like this here. Is what I think about when it comes to like drawing buildings and stuff. How much do I want to draw them? Almost How much do I know I need to draw them? Or at least get good? Is like, and then actually going through with doing it, you know. It's like, don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. Oh yeah, and there's the military guy who's in the anime, the military colonel dude, and even him and his arc and everything that he goes through, it's awesome. And this is one of the best like panels, just seeing this guy. Because if you watched it, most of us have, I would hope. If you're 2 hours into my stream, hopefully you've watched Akira, maybe even possibly read the manga before. But like, even just seeing this is like no words necessary. Just visually telling you what the Colonel, with everything that he did to try to prevent what just happened. And he's just like, no words. Halfway through the story, it's worth the read. Just to see what this guy does. You know what I mean? And then there's still like 20 more characters that that you're gonna care about. You know? It's like, I used to I took 5 years off of artwork to write the story. Took 5 years just to study writing, to look into writing, all sorts of different writing, and then actually begin writing stuff and I don't mean I immediately just jumped into writing a script, just writing down lists of names, lists of locations, lists of events, just listing things in that 5 years of writing, and then taking those lists and then beginning to turn words into sentences, and then taking those sentences and then turning them into paragraphs, and then turning those paragraphs into, you know, essentially they were just notes, like footnotes. Took 5 years off of drawing pictures, my favorite thing to do, you know. And when I started drawing again, after I got to a point with the writing that I was like, I'm good. I'm not done. I'm good. I'm good for me. I'm me good. Like, you know, as far as like talking about all this stuff, like how I was talking about like I'd be good to draw something like this, is like, alright, I got it. You know what I mean? I'm good. I could do this. Don't, you know what I'm saying? Don't make me draw that. So with the writing, it was like, I'm good with writing this. Don't make me write that. Not yet, at least, right? And now I'm working on the writing with the whole story, and I'm, you know, I kind of give y'all little tidbits on how that's going. It's going well, by the way. I'm enjoying it, you know, depicting it especially, but throwing the words in now with the pictures is something else. It's just something else. It's something that I've never done before, so it's cool. It's really cool. So when I started drawing again after taking that 5 years off, I had to like relearn everything. Just like I had to start with writing from scratch. And I think I only started drawing, damn, when did I start drawing again? 3 years. Man, let me get a drink of water, man. My voice cracking. I'm sounding all like I'm 15 years old, man. Hold on, man. Let me, hold up. Oh. So just like I had to teach myself all that drawing stuff. Hey, what are you doing? Get out of here. I swear every time I buy fruit flies just be like, where they come from? There we go. I think I got it. Watch it fly back. So I taught myself drawing step by step again. I was like, all right, I took 5 years off of drawing. I think I only been drawing back for like 3 years, maybe 4. I think it's going on 4 years now. And every year I was like, okay, get good with the pencils, and then next year get good with the inks again, and then get good with markers, and then, you know, dedicate a year to a craft. I think like drawing environments, even in that writing time when I was like writing words, I was doing like the loosest of sketches because I wasn't there to draw, so I was drawing with the intention of draw the minimalist of effort, draw with the minimalist amount of like intent to draw, just because I need just regular visual representation for these notes, because that's just how I can communicate with myself. So I can go back to my notes and I'll be like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? Like the picture's worth 1,000 words to me when a word is only worth 1 word to me, you know? So it's like I was doing like the most minimalist amount of drawings, but I was like spending a year, and so far it's only been 4 years. I haven't even been 5 years back from the 5 years off, now that I think about it. And for me to have to like try to like pull off something like this, which is something I feel like I may need to do because I'm so bad at it. Like I'm realizing that when I'm drawing my story now, like script, storyboard, you know what I mean, dialogue, sound effects, notes, you know, scene, shot, seconds, minutes, or yeah, seconds, minutes, like doing all that stuff. I think my inability, my unwillingness, just like I was like, oh man, I can't draw Transformers until I saw Jay Lee. And then I was like, oh, okay, I may not be able to draw like that, and I won't draw like him, but like now I know how I can go about drawing my way of drawing some Transformers. It's like, okay, cool, just like that. I can look at I haven't found an artist that can draw this stuff, you know, draw all this stuff in a way that I look at it and I'd be like, alright, I got it. I don't got it. And I'm drawing the story, and I'm doing establishing shots, and there's environments, of course, you know what I mean? And I have the whole world and camera and perspective, everything that I have going on, and it's all good. And then it's like, you gotta draw a little building. You gotta draw a plaza. You gotta draw a big building. You gotta make these buildings look like they belong with each other, but also make them different, just like all these buildings. You can't draw this one building 20 times. You can't make this H-shape building, have them all be H-shaped buildings. You can't make this 100-story building and have them all be 100 stories. You gotta have a 100-story one, a 50-story one, a 20-story one, a 10-story one, and they all gotta be different. It's like, dang. I'm just realizing this as I'm talking to you guys. As I'm talking to all one of you. It's like, man, I might somehow, some way, while continuing working, maybe have to put a focus on buildings. And there's 100 different ways to do that. But it's like, it's gonna be super difficult for me to like really go through with everything and to pull off a quality of environment and buildings that I can be happy with, that's on par with how like accepting I am of like drawing my characters. You know, we see how much time and effort I put into a character. Some take a lot, some take a little. You know, some like I care about, some I don't want to say I don't care about, but it's like, all right, I just need to get this idea out. Boom, the idea's out. I'm done. And then there's other characters where it's like, got to get an idea out. That's not quite it. Try that. Almost there. Try that, and then boom, I got it. You know what I mean? It's almost like I'm gonna have to treat these buildings or treat environments like I treat these characters, and try to find that happy place of, okay, I'm good with drawing buildings like this. Because I don't know if I'm ever gonna draw something like this. I'm not gonna sit with that ruler and then be like, I'm gonna draw 1,000 windows. Yeah. But if I don't do that, how will I ever like develop a work that's on par with something like this? Not that you know what I mean? It's not like, oh hey, I'm gonna do a 6 omnibus volume thing over here. But it's like, dang. Oh, graphic. But yeah. See, something like this I'm kind of cool with. Again, we're back to the not that many, not too much definition in the buildings. You know, it's just more or less a whole bunch of just squares and rectangles and cubes and prisms. You know what I mean? Not too much straight edge work. The only building that really has a focus on is here. You got some down here. But, you know, there's not so much where it's like, you know, they're still all just vertical lines, horizontal lines. You know what I mean? I'd be able to do this. But you can't make every panel this. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, gotta find that happy place. While I'm working on the story, I'm working on camera angles, and I'm working on the set that these characters are all interacting in. It's like drawing the same scene, you know, environment 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 times from all these different angles. You know, that's why I'll crack open a comic book from time to time and be like, how much are these artists drawing the environment in just like, you know, a close-up of a character? And like half the time I want to say it's maybe about half the time, it's really just the character, and you don't really see the background for the most part. Like, you have the character, and chances are they're in a dialogue, so there's a speech bubble, and then there's probably a sound effect happening in there. The characters, you know, close up on the character, speech bubble, possibly a sound effect. All that alone is already going to take up pretty much the whole panel. So it's like, how much of the scene do I need to see? But even with that, like, just with what I've been working on lately, I'm like, oh yeah, cover that up. I'm like, am I drawing the background too much? Am I not drawing it enough? I need to, you know what I'm saying? Even this, man, look at this building. This building doesn't look like any of the other buildings. You see what I'm saying? Like you know, the roof style, the shape of it, everything. You know, we just looked at a whole bunch of buildings that look like this and have this sort of downtown construction to it, skyscraper construction to it. And then we got this building that's still a really big building with many floors and stories to it, but it's constructed differently. And, you know, since we all know that the whole setting and everything is like Japan or something like that, Neo Japan, Neo Tokyo and all that. You know what I mean? There's history in a city. So then it's like, okay, what's the old building? What's the new building? You know, is there a construction project happening in the middle of this city? Is the setting or is a scene going to take place there? Do I need to see that at all? Like, how necessary is so much of this? And I do not like to look at these books for that answer. I'll be like, yo, let me see what they draw nowadays. I don't want to see what the masters were doing back in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. So now that I'm done talking about all that. See, just a random page. You know, like, how much is the environment really necessary? You know what I mean? You got all these different camera angles all sitting within the same setting. And you have these circular columns. And you got, you know, walls, corners. Man, just having to be able to tell a story like this with this much detail in it is wild. How many artists these days, I don't know the answer to it, how many artists these days are drawing this camera angle with this effort towards the tile, and then even using the shading here, where like the darker tiles are a little bit darker here than they are there, showing a light source, shadows, and all that other stuff. Like just this alone is like, it's all one scene, one thing that's happening. You know what I mean? I'm sure Kaneda's up to no good right here. I don't know what he's doing. I haven't read the story that much where I got the whole thing memorized, but you know, it's Kaneda. You know, he's up to no good. But yeah, like most of the time, I imagine it's something like this, where it's just word bubbles, you know, close up on a character, and you don't see any background. Or even something like this, where it's like, all right, you know, you draw a little bit of something, you draw like a semblance of a corner, a little bit of perspective, some roof tile or whatever, some crown moldings or whatever, and then a little bit of columns, but nothing like too extravagant. And then all this blank space on this half, like this is all one panel, but all the illustration is on just half of it and not this half. And that's what I mean with, like, when I'm depicting these things, when I'm drawing these things, as I'm working on these scenes and shots and dialogue and all this other stuff, like, how much is something necessary? I'm nowhere near this, and I shouldn't be. I shouldn't be, but it's like an aim, you know. I don't know, I'm in the middle of working on that, on all those buildings. So I'd be thinking about buildings, and then I get like my heart be like So I want to thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching me do a little bit of more detailed painting on top of all the flats that I threw down. Finally got around to painting the character, all that other stuff. Did a little bit of reading books, looking at the manga panels from Akira's 3rd book. And yeah, man, I would suggest that to anybody. To anybody. If they can read, if you read books, if you like them, if you don't like them, if you're into anime, if you're into comic books, if you're into manga, if you're into manga and you haven't read it, whoa, you know what I'm saying? And then anything at all, man. Just it's way crazier than the movie. I'll just leave that there. So yeah, man, thanks for stopping by. I'm GMrReads at GMrReads on all socials. Follow, like, subscribe, all the good stuff. GMrReads.art, the website is right there. Check it out. Links to everywhere. And yeah, man, I'm working on like a commission right here. This is a dragon tier commission on my Patreon, so check out the Patreon. Look at all the different tiers that I have there. I got a tiger, oni, dragon, kami tier commissions on the Patreon, so look at those for commissions if you're interested. I'll draw anything and everything. And man, just maybe you just want me to draw buildings for you. Watch me struggle. Merch stores, code 2024 on the Big Drip store and the Impressions Part Out for 50% off. That's code 2024. You go to the store, it says it at the top of the page, so you know, that way you won't forget it. But it's whatever year we're in. So yeah, check those out. And yeah, I'll be back tomorrow with the with the workout videos for the Monday cleanse, so we can wash off the weekend and move forward. Anyways, man, thank you. Love y'all. Peace.